Not much is known about Greed before the events of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, aside from being the third homunculus created by a man known only as Father. At some point, Greed would defect from the other homunculi. By the events of Fullmetal Alchemist, Greed would form a gang of chimeras, and after hearing about the Elric brothers' fight of Scar, Greed would send a few chimeras to abduct Alphonse Elric. After Greed revealed himself to be homunculus, the homunculus would do battle with Edward Elric. Despite having the advantage at first, Greed revealed his full power of the ultimate shield, where he would temporarily dominate the fight until Edward would turn the tides by developing a counter to the ultimate shield, who would buy enough time for their teacher Azumi to find them. Despite holding on against Greed, who would gain the upper hand and would escape. But this would be short-lived, where he would encounter King Bradley, who would make quick work of Greed, where he would be taken to Father, who would give him another chance to work with him, but Greed would refuse. As a result, Greed's body would be destroyed, leaving only his Philosopher's Stone. After some time, Father would insert Greed's Philosopher's Stone into Ling Yao, where he would work under Father until he would kill his friend Beto, which would cause him to remember his previous memories. Out of rage, he would track down King Bradley, where he would temporarily do battle with him. Despite fighting on par with him, he would be forced to flee. Afterwards, he would side with Roy Mustang and Edward Elric to defeat Father, where he would deal with Gluttony. Greed would return central, where he would do battle with King Bradley. But despite having backup, Raph would counter everything that would be thrown at him, but would be injured by Buccaneer. After guarding Central, Greed would assist the Elric brothers in their battle with Father. Despite holding his own, Father would absorb Greed's Philosopher's Stone. Despite Ling attempting to save Greed, Greed will allow himself to be absorbed in order to weaken Father to give Edward the opening to deliver the failed blow, finally finishing off Father once and for all. Roman Torchwick was born in the kingdom of Mistral in the city of the Wind Path, where he would be abandoned by his mother in an orphanage. By the age of 18, Roman would make a living as a criminal. After robbing a man, Roman would be taken to see Little Miss Malott, Spire's organization, where he would be offered a position of work, where Roman will accept, but within 4 years of working for the Spiders, Roman will learn from a member of the Spiders named Chameleon that Little Miss knew about his betrayal for collecting double payment. Now with a bounty on him, Roman would fight and defeat Chameleon and escape into Vale. During his stay, Roman would gain attention of Hei Shang's crime family. Roman will be attacked by the Malotts one night. Eventually, he'll be saved by Trivia Vanel, where in the following days, Roman would train Trivia, who would now go by her new name, Neapolitan, who would put her through a test by going on a coffee heist. Despite a miscalculation, the heist would still be a success, where the two will form a partnership afterwards. However, afterwards, Roman would be ambushed by Little Miss Malott and Lady Beatrix Brownie, who would reveal that Neo had led them to him. After refusing to go with them quietly, Roman would be incapacitated by Honey Wine semblance, but would be saved by Neo sometime later. Seeking refuge at the Vanilla estate, Roman would have tea with Neo and her parents, where Neo would reveal Jimmy's involvement with Hei Shang. After chastising Jimmy, it would be revealed that their tea had been laced with a perilous powder, leaving Roman unable to move. Caramel would ramble on about her involvement with Lady Beat's operation. However, Roman would knock out Caramel, also revealing that he had not drank the laced tea, also knocking out Jimmy moments later and freeing Neo from her room. After uploading the files of Lady Beat's data drive to CCT and Vale News Network, Roman and Neo will make their escape, except being caught in the crossfire of Little Miss Malott's bullhead. With the help of Neo's illusions, Little Miss Malott would open fire on Neo's room that had dust stockpiled in, which would explode after launching a missile that would level out the house. At some point, Roman would be recruited by Cinderfall. One day during a dust heist, his plan would go downhill after encountering Ruby Rose, but would eventually escape from Ruby. Months later, Roman would continue working for Cinder until he would encounter Team Ruby in the undergrounds of Mountain Glen, where he would fight Blake but would easily be defeated by her and arrested. However, during the Battle of Beacon, Roman would be freed by Neo, where the two would take over the prisoner airship, where he and Neo would do battle with Ruby Rose. However, Ruby would catch Neo off guard by opening her umbrella, Hush, that would send her off the airship. Roman would fight Ruby for as long as he could. Despite having the upper hand, his negative energy would result in him being eaten by a griffin grin. Hello and welcome to the first requested match of Season 3, where fellow verse creator Ray932, who you should also subscribe to if you haven't already, requested for me to put the homunculus Greed against the Master Thief, Roman Torchwick. Now, my resources are fairly simple. All of Roman's research will be coming from his showcase, since nothing has changed about him, and by the time of this recording, just keep in mind that I have no knowledge of Volume 9. As for Greed, his elements will be coming from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, if anyone is familiar with these two franchises, anyone knows that this match will once again be done under equal stats. And to sum it up, if you're not familiar with equalized stats, if stats need to be equalized, the weaker character will be boosted up to a point where they don't get hard countered. But if stats are equalized in all areas, I won't be going to depth, it will simply be giving my reasons on why the stats are equalized. Equalizing magic will be done as if both combined magic outputs are equal, and I'll simply be going over their variety and usefulness of their abilities. This time, speed is the one that needs to be equalized, since Greed dodges bullets and Roman has consistently reacted to lightning timers. So with that said, let's start by comparing and contrasting these two physically. By the end of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Greed will be a 200-year-old homunculus, and due to taking Ling's body, will stand at 5'8", with a thin yet muscular build. As far as strength goes, Greed is capable of stalemating King Bradley, who is the strongest homunculus physically speaking, with King scaling above the former Greed, who can crush stones with his bare hands, and sent that same Greed through a wall. And after taking Ling's body, he swung a metal beam at Father, stopped the spinning car with his bare hands, and managed to hold himself up with King Bradley holding onto him. And Greed, with his previous body, knocked around Edward Elric, who can damage other homunculi, and he at best scales above his host Ling, who can damage and knock around base form Envy, who is said to contain the weight of his true form. He can restrain and lift Gluttony, as well as trade blows with Bradley. Speed-wise, Greed is capable of dodging bullets and can keep pace with King Bradley, who speed blitzed his previous body and later managed to activate his ultimate shield before Wrath could strike him, with his host Ling being able to react and keep pace with King Bradley, with King being able to speed blitz his opponents before they can even react, deflect machine gun fire while running towards a tank. Durability, Greed can take one hell of a beating. However, take note that these feats are aided by his healing ability. Greed has been hacked and slashed by King Bradley, remaining standing after taking a strike from King that sent him flying. He's been knocked through a wall by the Fearer. He has also taken hits from Edward Elric and Zumi, who can casually throw Sloth. However, much like Lust and Envy, if Greed takes too much damage over time, his regeneration will begin to weaken and he'll be taken out. By the end of Volume 3, Roman will likely be in his early 30s, staying around 6'3". Even as a young adult, Roman was very strong, being able to break bones with a single swing of his cane, overpower skill huntresses such as RWBY. Speed-wise, he's very fast. He blocked point-blank gunfire from Sun with his cane, and most impressively intercepted RWBY's semblance, who at best compares to other characters such as Mercury, who can dodge ground lightning. Durability, Roman has shown nothing from your average RWBY combatant. He's been knocked around, taken beatings, and was within close range to a fire clone explosion from Blake. Both Greed and Roman are strong in their own way, but one of them just has better feats. Strength at first glance may seem to be in Greed's favor, however, once scaling gets involved, Roman is just more impressive, since Roman overpowered RWBY not once but two different occasions. The same RWBY who can drag a Nevermore up the side of a mountain, and can cut apart large Grim with ease. And Greed at best is on par with King Bradley, while strong, and quite frankly, scales above the vast majority of alchemists. You could get Greed up to these levels, but that'll only be if you include other alchemists who are physically above Wrath himself. And due to his age as a 60-year-old man, Wrath even admits himself that he is not as strong as he used to be, not once, but on two different occasions. And due to his speed being equalized, Roman takes this by default. Greed reacts to bullets, and Roman scales the lightning timers. Durability is honestly a no-brainer. RWBY characters have the average durability of a human, while Greed can regenerate. However, Roman has his aura, which kind of negates this, but not completely. This would only allow him to stay in the fight longer. So between the two, which is better, Roman's aura or Greed's regen? And I'll have to say, Greed's regen. Since we don't exactly have an exact aura limit for Roman, I'll go on a limb and say that it's likely around the average huntsman's. As for Greed, his regen will only start to wear down after a constant wave of catastrophic damage in order to even override his regen. But with Roman having a 2-1 advantage, I give Roman the edge in physical capabilities. And while we're here, I also give Roman the edge in weapons, since Greed doesn't carry any weapons. Greed has 2 abilities. His first is dubbed the Ultimate Shield. The Ultimate Shield allows Greed to harden skin, which seems to be made out of carbon, allowing him to crush stone and cut through metal with ease. The Ultimate Shield is also insanely durable, blocking all attacks from gunfire to explosions, make it impenetrable. However, other opponents such as King Bradley and Edward Elric have gone around this ability. His second ability, as mentioned before, is his regeneration, which can completely regenerate limbs, even his head. However, it would take a constant wave of catastrophic damage to overwhelm Greed's regeneration. Just like other RWBY characters, Roman himself has his aura. Aura is a manifestation of one's soul to buff a user's strength or dampen damage. However, it must be activated and isn't a passive ability. Despite having a semblance, Roman chooses not to use it, instead of relying on his skills to get by. Yeah, this category is fairly simple, and it's not even a debate. Greed's Ultimate Shield is a hard counter to Roman's only means of attack, making it completely useless. And unfortunately, Roman doesn't have the one ability to help him against Greed, a reliable semblance. And when Greed's regen comes to play, Roman isn't just lacking firepower, but is ultimately at a clear disadvantage when both abilities are applied at once, giving Greed a far more better version of Roman's aura. So I give Greed the clear edge in special abilities. Just like all combatants who use weapons, I'll be using Star Wars Laser Fine Forms to better analyze and illustrate how a combatant approaches combat. So with that all out of the way, let's begin. It's unknown to say if Greed was the end combative training, but after attaining the body of Link, who was skilled enough to hold his own against King Bradley, Greed would become a well-rounded combatant. Now, at first I didn't know how to judge Greed, but first I'd like to thank Hardcore Jack on Discord. But nonetheless, Greed would be proficient in Form 4 Taro and Form 5 Genso. Form 4 trains user to use acrobatics and aggression to pressure your opponent, but the form isn't designed to be used in close quarters. Form 5 on the other hand trains the user to dodge or parry before counterattacking with a devastating assault. As an overall tactician, compared to his previous body, who simply would tear through his opponents with brute force to overpower them, but after his defeat against Bradley and taking the body of Ling, Greed is a more cautious combatant who takes a countering offense if he can't outfight his opponent, but is also a pretty agile combatant, being able to stalemate King Bradley, but is nowhere to being on par or even close to Wrath's level. Greed is also quick to think on his feet, such as when he sacrificed himself to weaken Father to give Edward the opening to defeat him, or when he stayed in Bradley's blind spot in an attempt to counter his ultimate eye. Due to being involved in a crime, Roman developed a cunning fighting style. Roman's fighting style primarily revolves around countering and invading, so there's no mistaking that Roman would be skilled in Form 5 Xian/Genso. Xian and Genso primarily trains the user to block or evade before countering with a devastating assault. As tactician, Roman is a reactionary fighter, allowing his opponent to make the first move before countering with an assault of his own. However, a much more skilled opponent has shown to get around this, and should Roman find himself on the defense, Roman will either run and fight another day or fight his way out. However, one of his biggest weaknesses is underestimating his opponent, evident during his fight with RWBY and Blake. However, he does tend to find himself in the corner when he's faced off against a physically stronger opponent, showing how he failed to even gain the upper hand or even face Heishan. When it comes to Greed and Roman as combatants, it's actually pretty complicated since both have a similar approach and have been able to hold their own against some of the best opponents in their verse. Between the two, Greed is a more ruthless combatant. His combative approach managed to stalemate King Bradley, despite Bradley having the upper hand, while Roman only goes on offense when he sees an opening he can exploit. But there's not one, but two problems with this. His approach has only worked on RWBY due to her using her semblance as a speed boost at the time, which is something that Mercury and other slower combatants have been able to get around. Yes, the same can't be said about Greed, since Greed's ultimate shield has been countered by simply using alchemy to weaken it down, and Raph's ultimate eye. Now, as tacticians, Roman is easy to tackle. Greed is by no means a mindless brute, but Roman actually has a decent amount of experience due to spending his entire life as a criminal to support himself. But Greed did evolve his tactics after taking Ling's body. But what hurts Roman the most is that he has struggled against properly trained opponents who can not only pressure him, or can match him in a certain area. Now, between the two, Roman is a more skilled in Form 5, since he has more than likely been using this form his entire life, and is a main focus of his combative style. So, which is more reliable? Roman's brains or Greed's brawn? And unfortunately, I just don't see many arguments going for Roman. Now, Roman is by no means a bad fighter. Between them, Roman is a far better tactician. However, Greed's assault is far more pressuring, and Greed also has a perfect body and with the right skill set to take advantage of Roman's defensive style. Not to mention, Roman flat out has struggled with opponents who can take his combative style head on or are simply more skilled than him. So I give Greed the very slight edge in combat skills and tactics. Let's just say this takes place after Greed has obtained the body of Ling and has been assigned by Father to dispose of Roman, who has been spotted in East City, who has become a well-known criminal in the area. But not wanting any obstacles in the way, sends out Greed to deal with Roman. Roman casually strolls down the street whistling a tune after taking out a few goons and robbing them of what they had on them. Unlike Vale, these people were as gullible, but whatever the case, Roman had some time to kill and businesses to rob. That was until Greed drops from the roof in front of him. So you must be the crook I'm after. The two size each other up as Roman merely chuckled. Another individual trying to play hero, huh? Well, isn't that a laugh? Sorry, but this is the end of the line for you. Without warning, Roman fires off a flare creating explosion. When the smoke clears, he's surprised to see Greed still intact, but with his hand armored by the ultimate shield. Covering his other hand, Greed closes the distance, slashing at the thief, but only managing to shred his coat sleeve. But at the last moment, Roman fires off another flare point blank into the homunculi, who is sent flying into a wall. Seeing the severe burns on Greed's upper body, however, he's taken off guard upon seeing the damage that has just been inflicted become undone. As he heals from his injuries, closing distance once again, the two trade blows, with Roman dodging and parrying Greed's slashes, but the hits that the homunculi does get in are chipping at the thief's aura. Seeing an opening, Roman fires a flare point blank to Greed's face, staggering him before fusing his cane with aura, and cracks the homunculi on the knee, causing bones to splinter out of his leg before bringing down his cane, caving in Greed's skull. As Roman walks away, he stops upon hearing Greed standing up. Looking back, he sees the homunculi rebuild his head, taking him completely by surprise. Who, or just what, are you? This makes Greed merely laugh, finding almost comedic. I'm Greed. I want what the world has to offer. Status, fame, money, and eternal life. Closing distance, the two clash. Greed pushes Roman's cane out of the way as he fires off a flare and slashes the Master Thief with his free hand. Recoiling back as blood spills out of his wound, Roman spams his flares in order to buy himself time for his aura to close up the wound, but Greed is capable of maneuvering around each of the shots sent his way before getting another few slashes before kicking off the Master Thief. As Greed goes for a gut slash, Roman fuses a large amount of aura into his cane and stabs Greed in the abdomen, and it's only then where Greed realizes that this was its plan, to lure him close enough to deal a fatal hit. The thief unloads his flares shots over and over until a hole is blasted through Greed's upper body. As he slumps over, Roman goes to push the homunculi off, but hand grabs his forearm and impales him with his free hand before crushing Roman's forearm moments before he could fire off his cane. Greed discards Roman's body to the side as he removes his cane from him, before leaving and reporting his success to Father. And with that, I declared Greed, the homunculus, the winner. You know, at first glance I have feelings that Greed will win, but after looking back on what Roman is bringing to the table, I'm actually surprised that he did pretty well. But that didn't exactly mean I saw this ending differently. As a matter of fact, if Roman had a bit more firepower, he could theoretically win. Adam's moonslide semblance would pack a huge punch, and with enough built-up power could theoretically go through the ultimate shield. Now, physically, it's pretty clear-cut. Due to skill, Roman is stronger and faster. When it comes to durability, due to Greed's regen, much like with physical capabilities and special abilities, it's basically the same thing but reverse, and it's not even close. The ultimate shield on top of Greed's regen will allow the homunculus to outlast Roman until his aura runs out, or if Greed manages to get that one hit in before he could activate his aura. Now, combat abilities is surprisingly close. At first, I was expecting Roman to take it due to learning on his own through trial and error, and has managed to hold his own against RWBY and other trained huntsmen. Yes, Roman fights this way, but I never said he was good at it. Judging from his fight with RWBY and goons from other gangs, Roman is in his element when he can control the fight and has the upper hand, and this is explicitly shown during his fights with other trained huntsmen who are better trained, or opponents who have better abilities which can allow them to get the upper hand on him. But Greed has similarly fought opponents who are more skilled than Roman, such as King Bradley, who absolutely eclipses both Greed and Roman, Edward Elric, who is a well-rounded alchemist who has fought and defeated some of the two strongest homunculi. But what ultimately gave Greed the edge in combat abilities is that not only is Greed bringing the right experience and a similar approach to cope with Roman's offense. Now, the Thief may be a better tactician, but it's only something that would work on a lesser skilled opponent. Now, if Greed was with his previous body, Roman would put up a better fight, but with Ling's body, Greed not only has experience due to Ling being a well-rounded combatant who managed to catch and even match King Bradley. But these are just my thoughts. Is Greed's ultimate shield just too much for the Master Thief to handle, or can Roman somehow take down the homunculus? And with that said, be sure to subscribe to the fellow content creators. Links will be in the description, along with my Twitter. If you care about that, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.
Fancy meeting you here.
You knew I'd come. I suppose I should thank you for not killing everyone at the launch site.
Well, not if you say it like that.
For a hired killer, you're not very good at your job.
The war is the big payoff.
Right. Big raises all around once World Marshal gets all those contracts.
I'm not talking about money, Jack. I'm talking ideals.
Excuse me?
Forget it. We've both heard enough speeches about higher causes by now. History will decide who's right. End of story.
Heavy damage. Standard top one laser test estimated. Initiate short range control. Activating short-range attack gear. Alert. Large enemy group detected.
Yes, I'm aware of that.